Hi guys, Ronnie here and welcome to the workshop. Today I'm going to talk about my bikes, predictably. But the question I want to address here is, why do I have so many bikes? You know, there's this thing called N+1 in cycling, where N is the amount of bikes you have, and yeah, it basically tells you to buy another bike every now and then. And from what you can see here, it probably looks like I follow this trend, but actually I like to have the exact opposite. So why do I have 5 bikes basically? So 2 for cyclocross, 1 for mountain biking, 1 for time trialing, and 1 for road racing. That's up there on the trainer. So what's the reason for this? When I say I don't really like these N+1 bikes, is most of the people who follow this have, you know, 5 different road bikes, and to be honest, if I look at them, they're always all just some not very good bikes, and perhaps a couple of older models, and they all basically do the same thing, and neither of them does it very well. You know, I know guys like this, 5 old road bikes. They're all a bit different, but they're a bit crappy. So yeah, I don't really get that. You know, why don't you just get, if you only do road riding, just get one proper, very nice road bike, and that's it. And that's exactly what I followed, basically until last year. Back then I only had a time trial bike and a road bike. But then I started riding more and more, and wanted to focus on cycling more seriously, so I decided that doing more disciplines is going to be beneficial for my cycling in general, to have better skills as a rider, to have better fitness as a rider, to have more motivation as a rider. And it's also good for business, because if you do more disciplines, you go to more races, more people know you, and yeah, you know the deal. So I went from a time trial bike. That's my main objective still, time trialing. If you follow my channel, you know that, because, well, to be honest, is the thing that I suck at the least. So yeah, that's why time trialing. I've also done a couple of road races, and I started to get frustrated because they didn't really work out, and it's just not a discipline that favors my skill set. So then I started, last season I started cyclocross with this bike, and I wasn't great at it, I have to admit, but it was good fun. Admittedly, I had nowhere to train. Now I have, so the results are much better to reflect that, so I'm glad about that. Then, moving forward, I also went back to mountain biking. I've done it previously before I started cycling seriously, and I thought, well, it's going to be a nice addition, because again, a cross-country marathon is basically just a very long time trial with some technical bits in, so it should favor my type of power delivery, and yeah, it does. So I decided to get, first I got my Cannondale. You may have seen that in an earlier video. That was just a lower end, bit older mountain bike, hardtail, that I wanted to ride and try. And I like mountain biking, so I've put together a proper cross-country weapon. This is my S-Works Epic. You may have seen that already. So this was my 4th bike. And then as my cross results started getting better and I got into it, then I thought, well, if you look at it from a general perspective, I already had different wheels, so I didn't need wheels. For cross you don't really need the power meter, and if you discount those from the price of the whole bike, then actually getting it wasn't really a big deal financially, thankfully. So I got another cross bike, and the thing with cross races is that they only last an hour, they're pretty intense, and if something goes wrong, it's a discipline where you can actually change your bikes. It allows you to do and the layout of the course, etc. is designed around that, so it just makes sense to have two bikes. When it's muddy, you get the mechanical or whatever, you don't have to abandon this race that's very short anyway, just because you had a mishap. You can continue on, and that's great. You obviously don't need multiple bikes for mountain biking. I don't have very hard trails in here. I'm not riding in at the level where I would also need a hardtail, and I don't really like hardtails anyway, so I only got one bike for mountain biking. For time trialing is the same thing. I have one bike that I'm trying to basically dial every little detail of it, and then if something goes wrong in a time trial, a bike change, even though it's allowed, your time is ruined anyway, whereas in a cross it might not be over. So it's unless you're a real professional, want to salvage your Grand Tour, you don't really need a second time trial bike or a second road bike. So this is the reason that I have this amount of bikes, because, well, I would say they're all pretty good, but they all have a purpose, and there's no real overlap between the two, or sorry, between the five or any of them, because even the cross bikes, they're set up differently. This one, the newer one, is set up strictly for cross racing. As I've mentioned, it has tubular tires, no power meter, just for cross. This one has a power meter. I have road wheels for it, so I'm going to use it as my winter training bike, probably. And I also have gravel wheels and gravel tires for it, another use. So yeah, it's not like those people that I don't understand that have 5 bikes for one purpose, and neither of them is very good, because I think N+1 is that. My N+1 is not really N+1, it's just N equals 5, and they all have a purpose, you know, and they all work. They're all pretty high-end, they work very well, and they allow me to test a lot of products and go to a lot of races, meet a lot of people, improve as a rider. You know, this year I've done, up to this date, almost 600 hours, so I'm not saying that's huge compared to professional riders who do even 1,000 hours per year, but still it makes me more motivated, and I have that kind of variety of training and competition, so that's great. Also, in terms of the actual YouTube viewership, when I have more disciplines, I have more targets, basically more varied content. I hope you guys like that. And yeah, it's just seasonal, you know. This way I'm not really bored at any point of the year, because I always have something to look forward to. Cross in late summer, and then as the winter starts fading away and spring arrives, then it's road racing, mountain bike racing, time trialing. So yeah, it just works out, even though it's quite a big investment. Should you invest in a similar quiver of bikes? Well, that's up to you. Of course, depends on your disposable income, your time and effort you put into cycling. But yeah, eventually, if you want to be a good cyclist, it definitely is going to benefit you if you try different disciplines. Okay, so anyway, this pretty much sums up my rest day thoughts about my bikes and about the question that I got. I hope you have found this useful and satisfactory as an answer. If you want to know more about the actual bikes and how they are set up, then don't forget to tune into the channel and subscribe. It's all for today. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.